You don't plateau when you're lazy. You plateau when you're changing. It's almost insulting how predictable it is. You finally get momentum. You feel sharper. You take the class, make the plan, tighten the offer, update the resume. Start showing up like the version of you've been trying to become. Money starts moving, not wildly, but enough that you can breathe. Enough that you think, okay, it's working. I'm out of the old season. Then the plateau hits. Not as a dramatic crash, just as a deadening quiet. The same effort that produced results last month now produces silence. Clients hesitate. Hours get cut. Sales flatten. Raises stall. The yes you expected doesn't come. You find yourself staring at the same number again and again, like your life is stuck on a loading screen. And the question that starts chewing at you isn't even about money anymore. It's about meaning. Why does it stall right when I'm doing better? Why does my income freeze every time I grow? What if it's not bad luck at all? What if it's a cycle you keep entering at the exact moment your growth becomes real? Because if you've lived this pattern, you know it comes with a specific emotional ache. It's not the same as being broke. It's the pain of being almost there. The pain of feeling like you've earned movement and the world didn't respond. The pain of doing the mature thing, showing up, improving, stretching, and still being met with a closed door. So you start doing what people do when a door doesn't open. You assume you're the problem. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not consistent enough. Maybe I'm not strategic enough. Maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I should be grateful for what I have. Maybe I should stop wanting more. Because wanting more keeps embarrassing me. And the worst part is how quickly shame turns into urgency. You feel the plateau, and immediately you want to force your way out of it. You add more hours. You add more offers. You drop your price. You say yes to the client who drains you because money is money. You take on the extra project because you need proof that you're not falling behind. You start chasing certainty like a drug. But the plateau doesn't respond to panic. It responds to something quieter. It responds to structure. And that's the part nobody taught you. Sometimes a plateau isn't a rejection of your growth. It's your growth demanding a new container. That's why it feels personal. Because it's not only your bank account that's stalled. It's your old identity arguing with your new capacity. Here's what changes the interpretation. Plateaus aren't always obstacles. Sometimes they're consolidation. Sometimes the money stalls because your life is refining your value before it expands again. Sometimes income pauses because the version of you that could survive on hustle is being replaced by the version of you that needs sustainability. Sometimes the slowdown is the moment your nervous system says, I will not let you build the next level on the same unstable foundation. This is where the lens shifts from, what am I doing wrong, to what cycle am I in? Because wealth, like everything alive, moves in phases. There are initiation phases where you start and learn. There are expansion phases where momentum comes easier and the world seems to meet you. And there are consolidation phases where progress becomes quieter and the real work becomes internal. Sharpening, refining, renegotiating, building the parts nobody applauds. Numerology is one of the cleanest symbolic languages for this, not because it predicts your paycheck, but because it names timing and value themes without needing your private data. It gives you a way to understand why your income plateaus at the exact moment you feel yourself maturing. It says, there are 1 seasons where you begin, where energy is fresh, where you can sprint. There are 3 seasons where visibility and creativity expand, where people notice you. There are 8 seasons where responsibility grows, where you build and scale, where money has weight. And there are 7 seasons, quiet, refining, internal, where the lesson isn't bigger numbers yet. The lesson is truer value. Most people hate 7 seasons in money because 7 doesn't reward your effort with immediate applause. It asks for discernment. It asks for patience without passivity. It asks you to stop confusing motion with progress. It asks you to stop selling your nervous system to buy reassurance. And here's the part that will either annoy you or free you. If you refuse the refinement cycle, your expansion will eventually collapse because what isn't consolidated can't hold weight. So the plateau might not be a wall. It might be a recalibration. A season where your earning identity is being updated so the next increase doesn't break you. That's why it happens every time you grow. Because growth that lasts always passes through a quiet stage where value becomes more honest than effort. Numerology, in its older roots, wasn't a personality game. It emerged from traditions that treated numbers as patterns of harmony and proportion, ways of describing rhythm, timing, and maturation. In Pythagorean and ancient Mediterranean thought, number wasn't merely counting. It was structure. It was a language for how things unfold. That matters here because your money life is an unfolding. It isn't only a set of tactics. It's a relationship with timing, value, and readiness. When numerology speaks of cycles, it's pointing to a reality you can observe without believing anything mystical. Growth comes in waves, and each wave has a different assignment. In wealth, the plateau is often the value theme season. It's where your life asks, do you actually know what you're worth? Or do you only know how to work hard? Can you hold a boundary when money feels tight? Or do you collapse into discounting? Can you stay consistent without chasing? Or do you become frantic the moment results slow down? Can you refine your offering, your role, your skill, your positioning, your relationships? So the next level is built on truth instead of desperation. You can see this pattern everywhere once you stop calling it random. You see it in business scaling. A small service provider grows quickly at first because demand is high and the work is simple to deliver. Then they hit a plateau right when they're doing better. The issue isn't effort. The issue is structure. They need systems, boundaries, clearer messaging, tighter delivery, maybe fewer clients at a higher rate, maybe a cleaner offer. The plateau is the season where the business stops rewarding hustle and starts requiring refinement. If they respond by adding more work instead of building structure, they don't break the plateau. They break themselves. You see it in careers too. Someone becomes competent, gets praised, becomes the go-to person. Then they plateau in pay. They keep producing, but the salary doesn't match the value. Not always because the company is evil, but because an old exchange rate was silently set. You will do more for the same. The plateau becomes the moment where they have to mature into negotiation, boundaries, and leverage. That's the refinement cycle. It's the value theme in human form. Will you keep earning your place through over-functioning, or will you update the terms? You see it in the broader economy as well. When expansion periods and tightening periods shift the environment, people interpret a contraction season as personal failure. But often the real task is adaptation, repositioning, deepening skill, adjusting spending, building buffer, becoming more strategic. Economic 7 seasons don't reward loudness. They reward precision and patience. And you see it personally in the way the nervous system responds to increased receiving. Some people hit an income plateau right as opportunity grows because, under the surface, receiving feels unsafe. Higher rates mean more visibility. More money means more responsibility. More success means being watched. The plateau forces an internal maturation. Can you stay grounded while you receive? Or do you sabotage so you can return to the familiar story of struggle? This is why the plateau follows your growth. Because the moment you level up, your life checks your foundation. Not to punish you, to make sure your next expansion doesn't collapse under the weight of who you're becoming. So what do you do when you recognize you're in a consolidation cycle, not a curse? You stop trying to outrun the plateau and start listening to what it's refining. Begin with the most honest question. Where is my value unclear right now? Not to shame yourself, but to locate the fog. In a plateau season, fog is expensive. If your offer is unclear, your pricing becomes shaky. If your role is unclear, your leverage disappears. If your skill story is unclear, you under-negotiate. Clarity is not branding. Clarity is power. Then tighten one thing instead of adding 5 new things. Plateaus punish scatter. They reward precision. Choose one core income channel, one main offer, one primary role target, one skill that increases leverage, one relationship pipeline that actually returns opportunity. In consolidation, focus is financial medicine. Next, audit the exchange rate you've been living under. Where are you over-delivering for old pay? Where are you discounting out of fear? Where are you saying yes to just this once and turning it into a permanent policy? Plateaus often reveal that the ceiling isn't your ability. It's your tolerance for undervaluation. The adjustment isn't always more work. Sometimes it's cleaner boundaries and cleaner terms. Also, build buffer like you respect yourself. Even a small buffer changes the nervous system. It reduces desperation, and desperation makes terrible financial decisions. A plateau season is often asking you to stabilize your base so you stop negotiating from panic. This isn't about perfection. It's about giving your future self oxygen. And if you're the kind of person who responds to uncertainty by forcing more output, practice a new kind of discipline, staying regulated while the results are quiet. Consolidation seasons teach you to hold steadiness without immediate reward. That's wealth maturity. That's what separates people who build from people who burn out. None of this is flashy. That's the point. The plateau isn't asking you to be louder. It's asking you to be truer. When this starts working, You feel it first in your body, not your bank balance. Before, the plateau made you frantic. You chased, discounted, overworked, second-guessed, checked the numbers like they were a heartbeat monitor. You tried to force expansion because silence felt like danger. You measured your worth by movement, and when movement slowed, you felt yourself shrinking. After, there's more calm. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped interpreting a quiet cycle as a personal failure. You feel more trust because you keep your focus instead of scattering. You feel more clarity because you've tightened your value and your terms. You feel more self-respect because you stop buying short-term relief with long-term depletion. And then, almost without drama, the external begins to shift. Opportunities that match you start appearing because you're no longer positioned as the cheaper version of yourself. Negotiations go differently because your nervous system isn't apologizing for your value. You make decisions that protect your future because you're not trying to escape the present. Transformation is internal first. It begins when you stop calling consolidation stuck and start calling it refinement. That's when your income stops plateauing as punishment and starts plateauing as preparation. If your income has been stalling lately, what value theme might your plateau be refining? Clarity, boundaries, pricing, focus, or receiving? And where would one small consolidation choice this week create the most stability without you forcing a premature expansion? Your income doesn't plateau to mock your growth. It plateaus to pressure test your foundation, because expansion without refinement is just collapse scheduled later. If this episode gave you language for your season, share in the comments what your plateau has been trying to teach you and what you're choosing to tighten instead of forcing. Subscribe if you want more episodes that decode money patterns with grounded clarity, so you can build wealth that grows with you instead of breaking you.